Should Nintendo make a standard home console to compete with Sony and Microsoft? And also, will they in the future? Well, to get the answer to this question, it's important to look at history. From the original Nintendo all the way to the GameCube, Nintendo's always put a lot of focus on their home console, but they also generated a lot of revenue from their handheld consoles. Now, their handheld consoles are unique in the sense that no one's been able to really compete with them before until the iPhone came out. And I'll get into why this is a problem for Nintendo later. If you look at Nintendo's sales from the original Nintendo to the GameCube, you see a sudden drop every generation. Now you could say, well, there are probably less people playing games. And although that might be true, a counter argument to this is when you look at Sony's numbers. Sony has sold over 1 million units with all of their home consoles, with the exception of the PS3, which only sold 87 million, which is still a lot, and it didn't sell as well because of competition to the Xbox 360. Now, there are many reasons why the GameCube failed, but it's also important to bring in the context that every console before it has sold more, and there already was that downwards trend for Nintendo consoles that they were selling less every generation. The other big problem is that, which the Nintendo 64 also had, is that they weren't selling third-party games. So it didn't really matter that Nintendo had great games, because even though some people bought it for the good games, if it didn't have all the major games, at the time it was like Call of Duty, Resident Evil, GTA. There was no real reason to actually own a Nintendo console unless you really wanted to play a Mario game, which they even messed that up. They only released Mario Sunshine a year after the console came out. And a big reason why the N64 and the GameCube didn't really have third-party support is because they were annoying to develop for. So the file sizes were shorter, so it would take more time to release a game on that console. And for a lot of developers, it wasn't worth the time to make a port just for it to not sell as well as it would on a PlayStation. And when you look at the Wii and you look at the hardware for the Wii, it is this almost the same exact specs as the GameCube. It's just slightly better and runs a bit better. But other than that, it runs the same. It's basically the same as re-releasing the GameCube with extra features. But what Nintendo did different is they attracted a casual audience. Nintendo's business strategy switched from a core gamer audience to a casual audience. Now, with the Wii U, they pretty much scared the entire casual audience away, and most of them moved to the iPhone. So I don't think Nintendo will be ever able to recapture that audience again. And what's so interesting about the DS is you have a lot of games that play, look, and feel like mobile games that exist on the DS. And to add to this too, it even has a touchscreen, which is a feature that all the iPhones today have. And if you look at one of the reasons why the 3DS was not as successful, a big reason is because a lot of people who own the DS shifted from playing games on a DS to an iPhone. Now, one of the things to point out about the success of the Switch is as a hybrid, so it's both a handheld and a console. So why is this important? Well, you have the audience of people who buy the handhelds merge with the audience of people who buy the consoles. Now, is there a lot of overlap? Of course. But I guarantee you there are a lot of people who own the handhelds that would never own the console. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who own the consoles that never had a handheld. So when you merge those audiences, the sales of the Switch, I think, is a bit inflated. Now, at the end of the day, this doesn't really matter all too much, because the sale of the console doesn't really matter in itself. It only matters because there's more people you can sell a game to. So now the question is, should Nintendo continue making hybrids, or should they go back to making a handheld and also a main console? And this is a really tough question for me to answer. The one thing that has changed is that it's extremely easy for Nintendo to sell third-party games because of the online store. Everyone has an online store, so they'll have no problem having developers make third-party games because it'll be extremely easy to sell to people. Now, the benefit of having a home console is that you could actually make it more powerful. But that really will probably affect third-party games more than Nintendo games. Because Nintendo, their main games, even if they are a bit more powerful, it's the only place you could play them. So it doesn't matter how more powerful the console is. What matters really is if the games are good. But here's a big downside. There are a lot of people who own a Nintendo Switch who also own either an Xbox or a PlayStation. If you were to just make a regular home console, there will be a big portion of people who will either only own a Switch, only own a Nintendo console and not PlayStation or Xbox, or they'll leave the Nintendo console altogether and just move to only a PlayStation or only an Xbox. Now, if they were to do a home console and a handheld, that would remedy that problem. But now you're splitting markets a bit, and I think Nintendo might be able to fix this problem if it were to exist. What I definitely could see is Nintendo making two versions of the same console. One that works on your TV only, and then one that works on your TV and on the go, just like the Switch, a hybrid. The benefit of this is that they would share the same store, so if you were to own both, then you could have one console on the go and one to play on the TV. I could definitely see Nintendo doing this because it will definitely raise their sales numbers for sure. And also, if you make the main focus the hybrid like before and have the home console only as for people who care about power, I think you get the best of both worlds, where the people who care about power get what they want, and the people who just want to play the game on the go and on their TV, they get what they want too. Now, they could always make the handheld only work handheld, but why not just make it hybrid? There isn't really a real reason to why not. But also, if they were to do this, this would solve the problem of people of competing with Sony and Microsoft, because they're doing both. Not only would they be competing with them, but also you have an option to allow people to buy Nintendo's console and an Xbox or a PlayStation. So with that being said, I would definitely not be surprised if in the near future I were to see a Nintendo console that was a main home console. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and I hope all of you have a great day. Later.